Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. I'm going to give everyone a minute or two just to file in, but feel free to write into the chat where you're joining us from today. Say hi. We'd love to hear from you.
If you just joined, we just mentioned that we're gonna. If you just joined, sorry, we just mentioned that we're gonna be getting started in just a couple minutes. We'll give you a second to settle in, but feel free to say hi in the chat.
Go ahead and get started. So hi, everyone. Thank you so much for taking some time out today to join Spark Hire and Lever's conversation on 5 ways to create a positive candidate experience in a virtual environment. I'm Alexa Jackson. I'm the product marketing specialist at Spark Hire. I'm so excited to introduce the panelists joining us today. We have Spark Hire's own Jeremy Tolan, partnerships manager. We also have Ash Moulin, who is the senior recruiter at Lever. In the past year, organizations have shifted their recruiting processes into a completely virtual experience. Now, recruitment professionals refuse to give up the benefits of virtual interviewing. In fact, in a future of work survey, 82% of hiring managers said they'll continue interviewing candidates by video for many years to come. While incorporating new technology can lead to a more organized and efficient hiring process, the efficiency gains often come at the cost of the candidate experience. So today we're going to be talking about how you can create a positive candidate experience with a virtual workforce. Before we hear from our panelists, we want to hear from our participants. So you'll see a poll pop up on the right side of your screen, and we want to know, how do you measure candidate experience, if at all? I will go ahead and send that poll right now.
Thanks for getting us started. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, thank you.
You'll see a couple of answer options, so just go ahead and choose the one that resonates most with your organization. I'll give everyone a minute to respond.
Yeah, thanks for helping get us started, Alexa. Thanks everyone for joining today.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you, Ash.
Excited to be here.
Thanks for joining us, Ash.
Absolutely.
Great seeing you guys respond to the poll. We'll give you another second here to make sure you get your responses in, and we could check out some of these results.
Awesome. It looks like the majority of our participants either don't measure the candidate experience or they measure the candidate experience with the conversation after hiring. Jeremy and Ash, any thoughts on our participants' responses?
Yeah, so first of all, super excited to be here. Thanks so much for having me again. Lever, like most of us, super important for us we take it very seriously, absolutely. Through the Lever platform, actually, one thing that I will say is, we're very lucky that to be able to have an automated workflow, which allows us to send candidates a candidate experience survey 5 to 7 days after they've been archived, regardless of the reason. The questions are specific to the overall experience, timeline of interview process, quality of the questions that were asked. And we have a scale that we actually measure between 1, very dissatisfied, to 5, which very satisfied. And so we do that. And so obviously, that really helps us to follow up to make sure we are really trying to execute a great candidate experience. It's also worth noting that as a team here at Lever, we actually, as a recruiting team, I should say, we review the candidate experience results every single month together and in our one-on-ones in our recruiting meeting, and we review certain specific examples and with our manager directly. So it's something that, it's always top of mind for us at Lever, for sure.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I'm sure those surveys are super helpful. And I think that's pretty similar to what a majority of the companies using Spark Hire are doing.
Yeah.
They're either doing a conversation after hiring or also combining that with the survey during or after the interview process. I think what's awesome about having those conversations after you've made that hire is it's a good opportunity to gather detailed feedback about different improvements, things that the candidate really liked about the experience too, that you can apply going forward. But definitely good to be doing a combination of these things, I would think.
Absolutely.
So my first question is, what are the most important aspects of the hiring process that organizations should focus on to provide an outstanding candidate experience? Jeremy, let's start with you.
Sure. Okay. So when you're trying to make sure that you have a really great and outstanding candidate experience, I think it's obvious that you got to focus on designing your whole hiring process where you're keeping the candidate or that employee top of mind. So really think about how are you providing a process that's really attractive or engaging for them, that's making them really excited about working for your organization? How are you making their lives easier throughout the process too? And how do you really put yourself in their shoes, in your candidate's shoes, to really understand how you can provide an awesome experience? And something that I usually recommend as a really good exercise to help with this is to go through your own hiring process as if you're a candidate. And that's going to expose you to things that maybe you didn't notice before, maybe things that you're doing really well, areas for improvement. But it's a great way to analyze your own hiring process by just going through it as if you're a candidate. Another really important aspect to focus on is make sure you're providing candidates with a lot of information or context up front on what to expect for your hiring process too. You don't want them to feel like they're caught off guard or not prepared for any points in your process. So I think it's important maybe on the careers page of your website to outline the different steps in your hiring process that the candidate should expect to go through. And when a candidate applies and you decide to advance them to the next step of your process, give them a quick call or at least send them an email to outline those steps that they should expect to go through for the rest of the process too. And going along with that also is timelines too. So make sure you're committing to timelines on when the candidate should expect the employer, you, to get back to them on next steps, each step of the way. And what I think is important that maybe goes overlooked sometimes too is obviously we're not perfect. We can't always keep up with these timelines with the different candidates. We've got a lot going on, but if you're not able to deliver on that timeline that you committed to for the candidate, make sure you at least send them an email with an update on what to expect for the new timeline. So if you told them that following your in-person interview, you should expect to hear back from us within 5 days on a final decision, and maybe that fifth day comes around, you're not ready to make a final decision for whatever reason, send them a quick email on how many more days they should expect to hear back from you and what else is still going on in the process. And just really focus on what are you doing to get candidates to continue to opt into the next step of your process, and not just opt in, but be really excited about making it to the next step of your process. And something that goes a long way to help with that is using your employer branded content to keep candidates really engaged and also just help make sure that they're learning more about your company culture to get excited about working there too.
That's awesome. Ash, anything you want to add to that?
Yeah. Jeremy nailed it, obviously, totally. Transparency, a big deal, obviously, from first contact, ensuring candidates know exactly what to expect throughout the process, during every touch point as well. Ask how the particular stage went, and then outline what comes next. At Lever, we actually aim to provide feedback and next step within 72 hours. So we communicate that from the beginning and follow through. There are obviously those times when things happen and when we maybe don't have the feedback right away. But I feel very lucky that we do have Lever, because it does give us a reminder within the software to get back. Communication, obviously another huge deal throughout the entire process. Set and manage the expectations in terms of timeline, as you mentioned. Absolutely. I'm probably going to mention it a couple times today, but at Lever, one thing that we did recently was we actually created a microsite for all things like recruiting and life at Lever, which I'd be happy to share in the chat if anyone would be open to checking it out as well. It really is, first of all, it helps with our employer branding, but also just outlines our process, exactly what you said. So what to expect for the roles, generally speaking. Of course, there are the one-offs that have one or two stages that can be added or taken away. But definitely adding that has been something that has helped with, that communication and making sure that expectations
Those are
are
really
aligned
good
from the
points. And
get-go.
I like how a lot of them tie back to an important aspect that we didn't directly mention, but making sure that you're tapping into the right technology so that you can deliver a really good candidate experience too. Almost all the points that you made indirectly call back to just the importance of using the right technology also.
Perfect. And it looks like a lot of people in the chat would be interested in that file, Ash. So
I'm going to put it in just a minute. I'll just, after I finish my next answer.
So we'll move on to the next question. So what are talent acquisition teams doing to successfully personalize communication with candidates throughout the process? And Ash, we'll start with you.
Awesome. So yeah, from the get-go, definitely using Lever, we're able to personalize in all of our email templates. I actually just did a project with my team on all of our templates recently to make them more unified and make sure that they really were up to where we need them to be. But ensuring that, communication, first of all, is direct. So making sure that the candidate is addressed by their name. And we also, at that time, even after their application, if we're ready to have a motivation screen, is what we call our recruiter screen at Lever. We actually ask them specifically about their pronouns and if there's any accommodations that need to be made. Obviously, super important now more than ever to make sure that we're asking those questions, because if you don't ask, you may not know, of course. That initial email, the questions are there. And then if there are specific accommodations, really making sure that we communicate those with the interviewers throughout the process. Transparency is key at this point as well, absolutely. So wanting to ensure that that the communication style is, completely laying everything out on the table, and what the process likes moving forward as well. I think that, using, I guess we'll go back again, Jeremy, with technology, having the right the technical tools within the recruiting process is so important. Addressing folks by their first name consistently. I mean, it's not a very good look if you don't, but it's something that, is just an easy way to start everything off on the right foot.
Thank you, Ash.
So,
and Jeremy, anything you want to add?
A couple things there.
Yeah, I liked that Ash pointed out how it's important at the very beginning of the process to understand accommodations for candidates, or even just simple things like preferences for how they like to communicate. I think that definitely goes a long way. Where we've seen a lot of success in Spark Hire's own hiring process, and same with the organizations that we've been helping, is using videos and emails. It's a really good way to keep candidates engaged and get them really excited about making it to the next step in your process. So a few examples where we've seen companies have a lot of success is when a candidate first applies for a position and you determine that you're ready to advance them to whatever your next step of the process is, send them an email that includes a video in it that congratulates them on making to the next step, thanks them for applying, and explains what they should expect for that next step of the process. Or another example where we've seen organizations have a lot of success is when you're ready to invite a candidate to a final round interview, you usually send an email to let them know and help schedule that interview, but include a video in that email with something that I usually refer to as an employee testimonial. And what that type of video is basically just asking one of your employees to record a quick video themselves explaining why they love working at your organization, maybe specific things that they like about the role that they're working in. And those go a really long way when candidates get to see someone that would be like one of their peers that they would be working alongside, talking about how much they love working at the organization. And then one more example that I wanted to mention too is at that final stage of your process, when you're ready to send an official offer in an email to a candidate, include a video with that email too that's reiterating why you think that candidate's such an awesome fit, congratulate them, and make sure they know how excited you are for them to become the next member of your team. So definitely using videos and emails throughout your process can be an awesome way to help personalize the communication with your candidates.
Great. Now, before we move on to the next question, we'd like to hear from our participants again. So this one won't be a poll question, but if you can write into the chat and let us know how you are personalizing communication with candidates in a remote environment, we'd love to hear your ideas. And I'll give all of you a minute or so to write in.
An official poll, but just go ahead and write that in the chat. Love to hear the ways that you guys are doing it. Maybe there's certain things that you just heard Ash and myself mention that you're already doing. We'd love to hear if you're doing something like that too. But let us know what you guys are doing right now to help personalize your communication with candidates. Thanks. Alexa just posed the question in the chat too to make it pretty simple to respond to there.
Yeah, no problem. And while people kind of write in and respond to that, oh, awesome. Seems like we're already getting some answers. I was going to say we can go to the next question, but we're getting some answers.
These are some good responses.
It looks like Kim is doing. Looks like Kim and her team are doing the same things that we do, specifically at Lever with the pronoun
highlights
piece,
from the interview and your email exchange. I think that's really good too. Calling back and showing what you listened to, what you're interested in about that candidate. Super important. Absolutely. Cool. I like this idea of setting up a webinar to introduce the entire department when a candidate's hired. Great way to just kind of ingratiate people into the culture and just get them introduced to a bunch of team members at once. That's an awesome idea.
Also a really good way to show how excited the team is to have them on
board.
Meeting
with candidates one-on-one with a leader from their potential team, help answer questions, tell them more about what to expect. Thanks, guys, for submitting all these. These are all awesome ways, and hopefully you guys have inspired each other in some way too. But great idea sharing. Thanks for engaging with us in the chat.
Awesome. I'll move on to the next question. So let's talk about how organizations can leverage employer branding to attract top talent and provide a memorable candidate experience. And Jeremy, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I think this question's really important or just really relevant because I think it's obvious that candidates are really prioritizing company culture when they're searching for jobs and making decisions about which opportunities they want to move forward with more than ever. So it's super important that you have ways to be able to demonstrate your culture and give candidates an idea of what to expect, what it really feels like and is like to work at your organization. Something that I found interesting too from LinkedIn Insights from earlier this year is that 63% of talent professionals expect that their employer branding budget's going to increase or at least stay the same. So I think that's pretty indicative of this becoming more and more important, more and more organizations placing an emphasis on this. And by really placing an emphasis on this with your employer branding, really showcasing your company's culture, you're ultimately going to create differentiation from other organizations that are hiring. And that's going to lead to you recruiting the very best candidates for your roles, for your own team. And by recruiting candidates that really advocate for your culture, you're going to end up improving employee retention and drive better results throughout your entire organization. Some examples or ways that you can use employer branding throughout the process to do this would be think about pictures. People are always talking about how a picture's worth 1,000 words. So I think candidates really like to see pictures, especially of the potential team that they would be joining. That might be on like the career section of your website, maybe in emails or throughout your process, you're linking to your corporate Instagram page. So those are a couple ways you can incorporate pictures throughout the process too. Also think about using articles that are on external websites. Those could be really helpful because they're positioned from a third party. Maybe you have press releases that you want to highlight in emails to candidates. Maybe there's been thought leadership pieces from some of the different leadership members at your organization that you want to highlight in emails to candidates. Definitely make sure you're double checking what your Glassdoor page looks like and what your reviews look like, because that's usually a place where a lot of candidates are going to do research about their potential employers. So really make sure you're putting your best foot forward there. And I talked about a moment ago too, sending videos and emails to candidates at different points in your recruiting process to help get them really excited about working at your organization. And there's this statistic that I always like to call back to. It's a study from Lighthouse Research and Advisory where they found that an initial email with the video receives an increase in click-throughs by 96%, and that viewers retain 95% of a message when they see it in a video compared to just 10% when they read it in a text. So that's a huge way to be standing out to candidates, is if you're using video throughout the process too. And what we found also is that when we get to the end, almost like the final stage of the interview process, after we've done a final interview and we send an email to a candidate talking about next steps and what to expect from there, we like to incorporate a lot of these different things that I just mentioned. So we usually link to an external article on another site to help showcase our company culture. We also include a link to some customer reviews on a popular review site because I think that's a cool way for candidates to see the excitement from our customers and just the overall sentiment that they have towards our service. And then we also like to include a picture. We've actually done it where it's like a screenshot from a video meeting that we're having, and they could kind of see a bunch of faces of the team that they would be potentially joining. So it kind of helps them envision and get really excited about becoming the next member of that team. So those are just like a few ways that you can incorporate those types of things in just one email too.
Awesome. Those are some really great ideas. And Ash, same question to you.
Awesome. Yeah. And honestly, Jeremy, you totally nailed it again. I'm loving all of the points that you made there. I think one thing, I'll talk about the microsite a little bit right now, just because it is something that we did implement recently to really showcase, what we're trying to do within our recruiting process, but also some of the exciting things that have happened at Lever. We've had some great milestones and hit those recently, so we weren't afraid to add those to our microsite. And we actually drive candidates to our microsite in every touch point through our email templates, as I mentioned earlier. So maybe they don't check it out right away, but just that reminder there. And it was a pretty big project for us to take on, and we absolutely love how it's turned out. We've had a really great response as well. Also, the LinkedIn Life pages is something new. So we actually right now are doing some recruiting sprints as a recruiting team currently internally at Lever. And one thing is a couple of us, I should say, are taking on really improving some employer branding externally. So with the LinkedIn Life pages, of course. And then we've also created, and this is it's probably a little bit, this is I guess in our back pocket at Lever, but one thing that we've done internally that's worked really well is we've actually asked out to our employees for social media ambassadors. So folks that work internally on every team, and it is fully voluntary, of course. And they work with our amazing PR manager, Michelle, and we actually worked with her to promote and push out certain messaging specific to recruiting, but also just specific to create buzz around our entire brand as a whole. And that's, it really has done some great it's really given us some additional exposure externally as well. But yeah, I definitely think that that most of the points Jeremy made were absolutely where we're at. And
thank you, Ash. It sounds like some really exciting things happening at Lever,
where we can contribute as well.
Now, how can employers use technology to create a hiring process that favors the candidate experience? And Jeremy, we'll start with you again.
Cool. Yeah, I think we just kind of naturally went into a bunch of different ways throughout answering the other questions earlier too. I've talked a lot about using videos and emails to help make your communication really engaging and just further personalize it with candidates. This probably shouldn't be much of a surprise, but I'm a huge proponent of using video interviews as well. I think those are awesome because they give candidates an opportunity to really put their best foot forward earlier in the hiring process. And it gives them an opportunity to be compared to other candidates on a really even playing field. And if you're using video interviewing, I think it's important to make sure you have a dedicated video interview solution in place because it ensures a more cohesive experience for your candidates. Because if you're using a true video interviewing solution, something that's actually tailored for the hiring process, you're able to provide a really consistent branded experience for your candidates. They see things like your logos, your colors, videos about your company, pictures, and other information about your organization. So instead of just kind of informally hopping on a conference or some type of web chat, some type of video chat, or maybe even just asking candidates to send you a few videos, your candidates go through an entire experience that's really tailored to your brand and the rest of your hiring process. A couple of cool, unique things about using a dedicated video interview solution is that you can incorporate things like intro and outro videos to really make that experience more engaging for your candidates. An intro video plays before a candidate starts their video interview, and it's a really good way to maybe congratulate them for getting to that step. It's a good way to thank them for participating in this and letting them know what to expect. An outro video is a video that's going to play for the candidate when they complete your video interview. So that's a good way to maybe thank them and let them know what to expect following the video interview. I figured I'd point out that on average, companies that are using SparkHire's one-way video interviews, they made their screening process 5 to 7 times faster. So this is also a really great way to ensure that you're providing candidates with really quick response times about next steps too, because you're able to review these candidates a lot faster this way too. And then I think it's really important to make sure that you're leveraging applicant tracking because there's a lot of really great automations you can set up. There's a lot of really awesome ways you can keep candidates, all their information organized, and really hold team members accountable to follow up with candidates in a timely manner, so that you're providing a really fast response time to candidates too.
Perfect, Jeremy. And Ash, would you like to build on that?
Applicant tracking system is my jam when it comes to this answer for sure. Our at Lever, obviously, being an applicant tracking system, we have functionalities that can really create an organized pipeline, first of all, and feedback, sourcing tools, nurture functionality, which is a function within Lever that we're able to reach out to passive candidates and nurture passive candidates through the platform and its technology there. Also, assessment tools like, Codility is one that we partner with, is a coding assessment tool for software engineering candidates. Actually, at Lever, we have over 150 technical integration partners. So a technical integration for us is really anything that aids in recruitment to make it all-in-one recruiting suite. So, I mentioned Codility, but also, back check functionality as another example. And obviously job boards, being able to, with the click of a button, push out to any job board that you would like to get in front of your target audience for that role. Obviously so important, and having that functionality within the platform is just so amazing. It eliminates that click-through work that we all hate so much. I know that. DocuSign, of course, for offers, and the list goes on. And actually at Lever, we're actually adding integration partners at a pretty high rate. I think there's around 12 to 15 sometimes each quarter, even more. So our partner marketing team has just done such a great job there. And then also, as another addition here, is through the Lever platform, we're actually able to eliminate some of the actual manual work that comes along. And what I mean by that is the automated workflows. Creating a great experience via Zoom, of course, so important, as well as we navigate through this new hybrid work model here. I think when we touch base about the Zoom factor, it's also important that, as much as there's a technical piece, but having the etiquette behind it, also very, very important, as we're leveraging the tool so much to get candidates onboarded and hired, essentially. I'd leverage any automated workflows as much as possible. Just to close out my section here, we have a lot of functionalities with our interview feedback and our FAQs that can be added to all of our email templates as well. It just creates such a great experience from an external point of view as a candidate.
Perfect. And one more question before we dive into Q&A. So let's move past the hiring process and focus on onboarding for this question. So can you both share some tips for how to quickly embed new employees within your culture? Jeremy, we'll hear from you first.
Thanks. I think one of the biggest just overarching tips is to get every level of your organization involved with this. So that could be C-level management, all the different levels of managers, and literally from the top down, every type of employee should be involved with this. Just some examples is something that we do is when there's a new hire, HR sends them an onboarding packet on their first day. It might even be prior to their first day. And part of that onboarding packet is just a few get to know you questions, kind of like icebreakers that we ask the new hire to fill out. Things like favorite sports teams, favorite types of food, things like that. And those answers are shared with the rest of the team. And it's a quick and easy way to get them introduced to the rest of the team. It helps people identify shared interests, which strikes out different conversations and starts building relationships between the new employee and the existing employees. And another way that we try to kind of ingratiate these the new hires too is that on a new hire's first day, their direct manager is responsible for welcoming them in a channel that everyone at the company uses in Slack. And so that's a good way to get them introduced, kind of establish them there. There's a lot of great shout outs and engagement in that channel. And then we also have a monthly all hands meeting with the entire company. And near the beginning of each meeting, our CEO introduces any of the new hires that were made over the previous month and gives them an opportunity to share a little bit about themselves too, and kind of introduce themselves to the whole company. We also do something on a monthly basis that we call cross-department activities, where basically we split up the company in a bunch of different groups that are usually about 8 to 12 people on each group. And it's people that are from different departments that maybe don't have a ton of interaction or work with each other a lot day to day. So it's a good way to get them together in the same room, whether it's in person or virtual, and interacting with each other. And they could be doing a game together or maybe some type of team building activity, but it's a good way to get people together and bring different departments together. Um, the last thing that I can mention too, when you're thinking about all the different using people at all the different levels of your organization to help with this, our CEO, they send a video and an email to the entire company on a weekly basis. It's just a quick weekly update where they're talking about what's happening in each department, what's going on at the company at large. It kind of ties you into the different departments, ties you into the company at large, and it's a great way to keep people engaged that
That's
way
perfect.
too.
Perfect. And Ash, we'd love to hear your tips as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I have to say, Jeremy, I love that your CEO sends that weekly email. I think that's a great way to connect with the employees. And so just after we actually have an offer signed, we do at Lever, we actually send out we have a recruiting channel. And so as recruiters, we let everyone know about the hire and when they start, what department they're in. And then some fun facts about them and what they impressed us along in the interview process. Along with that, we also do some thank yous at that time to the interview team for taking the time to get this individual hired, and it definitely gets everyone pretty excited about the upcoming new hire. One thing that I will say that when I got hired at Lever, actually today is my 1 year at Lever, so I was hired, and I was absolutely felt so amazing to actually received a welcome email from Lever, but CC'd was the entire team, meaning the entire company was on that. And so as my team, my manager, she actually wrote the email to welcome me. The team actually replied all, and I heard from our CEO just saying, welcome Ash, can't wait for you to start. That was such an amazing way for me to feel, oh my gosh, like what? They are so excited to have me join. It was such a good experience. One thing that, as now I'm an employee here and a recruiter, what we do is we actually create a GIF with the team that they'll work on. And so that's what we include in the welcome email. I didn't know that was what mine was, but I was pleasantly surprised after I joined. And so we do a welcome GIF in that email, and then everyone will reply to that as well. All hands, we actually have all hands, much like you guys at Spark Hire. We actually have it every second Thursday, so pretty much 2 a month. And at that point, Nate, our CEO will welcome the team members, and we also give kudos to the recruiters at that time for working to get this individual hired. And we had the fun facts in that as well, which is kind of fun and kind of interesting, and normally get some chuckles. We send over the onboarding plan to the new hire, along with any and all tech that they might need. We actually open it up that they're able to get a benefit for specific tech as well, which they opt in on their first day. And then we can send them also a full schedule for their first week, letting them know, what they should expect. And even sometimes it's even into their first month. The welcome package, of course, comes with subsequently after or around the same time as the tech. And that would include, some swag and some other fun stuff along the way there. And then lastly, one thing that we definitely welcome and encourage is for the new hire to meet with members of their direct team. So we'll actually give them suggestions for individuals that they should meet with as a coffee chat in their first week or their first or second week. And then we actually will also give them the option to meet with folks cross-functionally. So giving them, a heads up as to some folks that they will be communicating with, maybe not in their first couple weeks, but wanting to get those folks in front of one another, just to have a casual chat, just to get the introduction out of the way. It seems to be a really great experience. And I think it really brings
I love the idea of using that
team
GIF
together
to help welcome
as the new hire starts.
hires.
So
I might have to steal that one
lots
from
of
you.
positive things there.
I think that's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. It's awesome. We love it. Yeah. And with Zoom, Spark Hire, I mean, you can sometimes we'll get people to do like a different hat one day, or just to be very, very fun. And
so I think this seems like a good stopping point to make sure we have time to answer some of the questions that are already coming through. So thank you so much for your time today. And if you have a question that we haven't addressed yet, please be sure to enter that in the chat. We want to get to as many questions as we can, so I'll give everyone a minute to just write in their questions, and then we'll start our Q&A.
Yeah, big thanks for everyone for joining us today. Thanks for engaging with us in the chat and answering the poll questions, and thanks for submitting the questions for this live Q&A too. Thanks, everyone.
With one question we've already gotten, which is, has there been a time that you tried something new to improve the candidate experience, but found that it didn't have the impact you wanted? Definitely, you can go ahead and answer that one.
Is this for me? Okay, no, sure. One thing that I did previous to joining Lever is we during the initial, I don't know, when COVID first hit and it was all kind of everything was all new and we really weren't sure about interviewing via Zoom and folks that would be involved in these meetings. Well, rather than have like a panel interview, we tried to do a panel interview previously, actually with like 3 people spread apart in the same room. We thought that would be something, and again, trial and error, so don't judge, but it was something that we thought, initially, let's try to set up a camera and do more of like an actual panel via Zoom. And this was again previous to Lever, and then found that, what, we thought it might have been a good experience because those folks would be right there, but it did not turn out to be a great experience. And I'm sure everyone on the call here can probably understand why it's hard to judge when people are going to ask questions. You can't put your hand up all the time, especially when you're live, right? So that was something that it was definitely trial and error. It did not work out for us. And we changed that obviously to doing more of a personal panel, 30-minute session for each of the panelists to meet with the candidate.
Thanks for sharing,
again,
Ash.
trial and error didn't work out, but
something that I could
we tried
share
it to
too
think
is
it was going to be a great experience.
we talk about the importance of personalizing your communication with candidates. But sometimes that could be a detriment. Like one time we were pretty much like over personalizing communication with candidates at certain points of the process that was probably just unnecessary. As an example, I was creating a different video for like every single candidate to show them a quick tour of our office. This was prior to the pandemic when everyone was coming on site to work in the office, so it was a lot more relevant then. But I was doing it every single time and pretty much recreating the wheel for every single candidate for something that probably didn't need to be as personal as that. So I think it's important to really figure out what is your lowest hanging fruit for personalizing the candidate experience, because if you overdo it, it could hurt your response time with candidates too, where now you're getting backlogged and not following up with candidates and hitting those time commitments that you set with them. So just being careful about what steps are you personalizing, how much effort are you putting into personalizing those steps, and balancing that with making sure that you are providing a quick follow-up time with your candidates too.
Yeah. Sorry. I was going to say, I think one thing that you mentioned there, Jeremy, is like, it's such a good point to not over personalize the process. Like, you maybe do not need to touch as much. But yeah, I can understand
really
that
good
it could
question.
be a lag in your response time, and nobody wants that, just to make it that more of a personalization for sure. So I think that's awesome. Yeah.
We got another question about video interview etiquette, specifically to Ash, but I think you probably will both be able to touch on it.
I think definitely Jeremy probably has some points, so I'll just start off real quick. Mine is really simple. Video etiquette, like, I know I was a candidate. Obviously, we've all been candidates, so I've had the experience of, like, hearing a Slack message during an interview, hearing that ding ding, or and I guess interview or I would say calendar reminders not as bad, but when you're hearing that Slack, it's like, are they responding? Are they not responding? It just creates a really weird experience. So I definitely think that etiquette is, in terms of that, making sure your background noise is just like double, triple check, because it's such a bad experience, especially if you're into the process quite a bit. And then I just think overall etiquette, like, I mean, I definitely think it's proper to be as engaged as possible. So I honestly will keep my cell phone further away from me. You never know if something's going to pop up, and I don't want to be disengaged from just seeing a notification. So just really making sure that you're present and aware of the
Yeah,
individual
all
in
those
front of you, and
awesome points.
listening and
advice.
commenting
I
as
think
well throughout the
it's
interview. It's just
definitely
so
important
important.
to test your
Be
technical setup for a
engaged.
video interview
For sure.
before you actually meet with the candidate. Make sure your camera, your microphone, your lighting, your background looks fine, your internet connection, things like that. Make sure you're letting candidates know how much time is set aside for the interview. I think that's going to be really respectful of their time, so that maybe they didn't have actually enough time to invest in the meeting because they didn't know how much time to invest in that too. So I think these are all important things, and all of these tips that we're giving that you should do yourself, make sure you're giving candidates the same tips too, so they're as well prepared as they could be, and you guys are able to be locked in on the conversation you're having instead of being distracted by any number of things like the different things that Ash was mentioning too.
Yeah. Sorry, I just wanted to mention one other little quick thing there, little piece here. We actually at Lever, we have candidate experience specialists. So we have a small team that actually works on just creating a good experience, just from a scheduling point of view. But they also give our candidates, and this is, I guess, just to piggyback off of what you just said, Jeremy, is an interview FAQ. So like like some tips before the interview. So we'll always. I think some of the points are like, go for a 5-minute walk just to clear your head. Make sure you have water, just like little things like that. We include that FAQ on, I think, almost every single interview schedule. So it's always there for them to reference, and obviously making sure that the candidate absolutely knows who they're meeting with. So we'll include a sheet that actually will have direct links to all of their LinkedIn profiles, and recommend that
it's a great
check
point.
them out
I love that you guys are doing that.
You never know when you
you're
can
really
create some
setting up
additional
candidates to
rapport
put
with the
their best foot
interviewers,
forward,
which
and
can never
let them
hurt.
be on an even playing field too. So definitely give them as much context and as many tips as you can prior to doing a video interview with them.
Absolutely.
Ash, it also looks like we had a participant who was interested in the social media ambassadors that Lever has. So can you talk just a little bit more about that?
Yeah, absolutely. It was something that we wanted to get folks, we wanted to get a little bit more engagement externally. And as a recruiting team, we thought, what can we do? And partnering with marketing, Michelle is just an incredible PR manager, and she worked with us to create some buzz around this. So we had a small team. So at Lever, we have about 210 employees. Our team of social media ambassadors, I think, is about 15. It's not an incredible amount, but we try to get folks from every department. And so what we actually do is we have a Slack channel. They all opt in. We had a meeting at first. I should take a step back. We all had a meeting at first to sit down and talk about, obviously, the goals of the program and what it looks like, what it will look like from an external perspective. And then we created a Slack channel. And so Michelle, our amazing PR manager, she actually will create a message. And so it's something that we can essentially copy and paste or personalize it as much as we'd like as well. And it could be pretty much anything that is any sort of buzz around Lever. So we have, obviously, a lot of our executive teams are constantly on panels and are in some really great articles. So we will sometimes include that. But we'll also celebrate some big wins that we have. So we just had our Converge, Ascend, which is our conference, our virtual conference. And it just, we were able to push out messaging or surrounding that as well to get some additional attendees. But yeah, we really just wanted to provide kind of like an internal, like a little sub team that just pushes out some really awesome facts about Lever to just continue to create buzz on mostly LinkedIn. So we did use primarily LinkedIn for it as well. I know some individuals use Twitter as well, but I would say primarily we look at LinkedIn for that. So it's worked really well. And, everyone is really happy to be there and to contribute on the team as well.
Awesome. Thank you, Ash. All right, I'll give everyone another minute or two to write into the chat if you have any other questions. I'm also going to be sending a final poll. We would just want to gauge your interest in a demo, either from Lever and or Spark Hire. So I'll send that now, and also feel free to send
really
in
great
any
questions
final
so far.
questions that you have.
Thanks again, everyone that joined, and if you're tuning into the recording, thanks for joining that way too. Ash, thanks for joining us and really contributing to the conversation.
Yeah, I love it. It's something that even just personally, I'm super passionate about the candidate experience. I have been from day one as a recruiter, especially I would say more focused in the SaaS recruiting world since I've joined about 6 years ago. And, it's just, it has to be top of mind right now. It's so competitive, as we all know. I'm sure everyone on the call knows how it's, everyone is interviewing everywhere. And it's really important that to keep it top of mind and make sure your team is engaged right at the end of the day, because you can't do it on your own. Your interview team has to, really be there. So, making sure that everyone is interview trained is also really important, just to add that as we close out here.
Yeah, really,
It's
and
just
tap
important. Candidate
those new
experience,
hires, and not
super,
even just new
super
hires,
top
existing
of mind
employees
for
for
myself
feedback
and I
about
know obviously for
what
you
their
guys as well.
experience
It
was
sounds
like
like
as a
everyone here.
candidate, things that they really liked about it, things that they could see improving, and really take that feedback seriously into consideration.
Absolutely. Yeah.
More question here. Looks like many of these ideas are for a recruiting team. What are the best areas to focus on if you're a department of one?
Yeah, no, I think that's a great question. I think I generally use the word team a lot too, but sometimes I am thinking about a team of
Jeremy,
one.
you want to hit that
A
first? I
lot of
can
the organizations who are using Spark
jump
Hire,
in.
they're either a smaller recruiting team or sometimes just a team of 1, 2, to your point. So trying to
Yeah.
look for any ways to make this a more efficient process, because I think ultimately your candidates are going to love an experience where you're able to follow up with them quickly, you're able to get decisions back to them quickly. I know that we kept talking about transparent communication, giving a lot of context up front. Definitely still super applicable to a team of one. So I think it's just important to try to consider balancing both being really efficient, but also, which is really tied to using different automations that you have available to you, but then also just balancing that with being really personalized so that you are attracting the best candidates, keeping them really excited about working for your company.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll echo that for sure, and just keeping yourself super organized. So I'm not sure if as a team of one, if you guys currently use an ATS, but it could be something to look into if you're starting to get a lot of volume. And of course, Leonard, I agree. Hopefully, you're hiring a lot to make it a team of two in the future. So definitely echoing that as well. But yeah, absolutely, efficiency is key. So getting the right technology in terms of the tool like an ATS is just something that can really help you. But if you can at the moment as well, I would just really keep on it and try to create a great experience while keeping yourself super organized to keep your pipeline going.
And yes, definitely hoping that you are getting to a team of two. That would be awesome. All right. Well, thank you everyone for your responses in the polls. Thank you everyone. Oh, actually, we got one more question. So what types of positions have you used video pre-screens for? We hire many professional level
No, I
roles,
think
and
that's a
feedback
really
has
good
been that
point,
video pre-screens are not
because it's
supportive of a
important that
good
when you are
candidate
using video
experience.
interviewing, and particularly the one-way video interviews where candidates can respond to questions on their own before a deadline, it's important that you're following a lot of the best practices that our team would usually teach if you got started with Spark Hire, because that's going to help set you up to have a really good candidate experience. If you're not doing certain things to really keep the experience feeling personalized for your candidates, then you are going to experience that where maybe there's some drop off with candidates. Maybe they are feeling like it's not very personalized. So it's really being used for all sorts of different positions at a lot of different levels in pretty much every industry. And I'd love to specifically talk about some of the best practices that you can incorporate into your process too. A lot of it has to do with some of the themes that we talked about, providing context and having that transparent communication from the beginning with your candidates, giving them information about how this is actually going to benefit them throughout the process too, and incorporating things like videos of yourselves or other team members throughout the process before they get to do a video interview is really important. And there's a lot of features that you can use on Spark Hire that can help with this throughout your candidate experience for video interviewing too. Because in general, I think candidates feel a lot more comfortable recording videos of themselves after they've seen videos from yourself or a member of your own team too. So I think that goes a really long way. I'd love to continue the conversation with you too. So if you're interested in discussing video and video interviewing further, you could see the email address on the screen right now, marketing@sparkhire.com. If you want more information about Lever as well, you can see the email on the screen now, info@lever.co. So please make sure you get in touch with us so we can continue the conversation with you guys too.
Absolutely. And anyone would like to connect via LinkedIn as well, definitely
Awesome.
shoot
Thank you,
me
Jeremy.
a message.
Thank you, Ash, for your time today.
Folks as well.
I think we'll wrap up here. And like Jeremy said, if you're interested in learning more, you can contact SparkHire, you can contact Lever. And feel free to shoot us any other remaining questions. We will be sending a recording of the webinar later on. Thank you, everyone.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.